From the heart of the land of the Guardians, where the dog pound roars, the Cavs soar, and heartbreak is just part of the game, this is 3 and Out, Cleveland Sports Talk. With Jason, Drew, and Michael, 3 diehard fans breaking down the highs, the lows, and everything in between. No fluff, no filters, just Cleveland sports the way it's meant to be. Now let's get into it. Here's your hosts, Michael, Jason, and Drew.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We are 3 and Out. We are so glad you're back with us again. Today, we're going to talk all of the Cleveland sports. Well, maybe not all of them, just the ones that we think are important. But we want to get into some conversations about the Browns. We want to get some conversation about the Cavs. We want to get some going about the guards and their bullpen. And today, I'd like to start the conversation. I was just looking at the roster the other day. I was watching a game, and Tristan McKenzie came in. And I guess I just wasn't quite aware of that, but he's in the bullpen, and he's not doing very good. And this guy, I mean, literally, there were moments last year when he would come into the game where in the first 3 or 4 innings, you didn't think anybody was ever going to be able to, touch anything that he throws. And now he's coming in, and you're thinking, perfect scenario. Guy comes in for an inning. 3 guys, 2 guys, maybe 5, 6 at the most in an inning. He should be lights out, and he is nothing even close to lights out.
No, not at all. At least not yet. I mean, he's only saw action in 3 games so far, so it's still early. We have what?
We had this discussion last one.
147 games left, if my math is maybe semi-correct.
Oh, we got 162 left. Always 162.
It's always 162.
No matter how many games you play, there's always 162 to be played.
Yeah. So, that's certainly one surprising thing. I mean, Class A, that's a whole nother topic, I mean,
he's
what's
struggling
the answer
ever
there?
since
I mean,
playoffs last year, he's really been struggling.
Yeah. So, what do we think the answer is there? I mean, obviously he's a key part.
Right. Gotta be able to protect the lead late in the game to get your win, but he's not
doing that.
Becoming the most consistent there. So
Well, I know when we were talking earlier, you guys had mentioned, do you let him, or I think Jason, I think you were talking about, do you let him go longer? Bring him in earlier, more as a middle relief guy, not a closer. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth.
No,
but,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
But my concern is that's what they did in the playoffs when he started struggling.
Yeah.
If you look,
right.
I actually listened to something earlier today, and they were saying, last year, and I don't have his stats pulled up, but he pitched, made 70 some appearances and pitched 70 some innings.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the playoffs, he had 7 appearances and pitched 14 innings.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah. No, they leaned on him more.
So if you're going more innings, it's like I had a basketball player one time, no names, who didn't play a lot for me. And he came up after the season. He said, Coach, he says, we're having our postseason meeting. He says, Coach, I think I deserve more minutes. I said, okay, well, let's go over your stats here. And we had a formula we had that kind of balanced the good things you do versus the bad things you do, right?
Yeah.
And I said, so here's the good, here's the bad, here's the formula. I said, of all X number of players we had on our team, yours was the absolute lowest. Why did you deserve more time? His answer was, well, I'd have done better with more minutes. No.
Yeah.
If you're not doing good enough in the minutes I give you, I'm not going to give you more minutes.
Right.
Right. And that's where for me with Class A, he's not doing good in the innings he's got. What are more innings going to do? Yeah. To me, there's a mental block there that is something. And listening to former pitchers, talk about him, because I'm not a pitching guru.
Right.
What he's doing, his velocity's good and his control's good because it's getting over the plate.
Yeah.
But he's pitching into hot zones. He's not getting movement on his pitches. So is it mental? Is it mechanics? I don't know. But those things aren't going to change with more innings.
A lot of that comes, back with raising boys and well, pitch and stuff, overthinking does all of that. You try to throw hard, you overthrow. You try to make it paint the corner perfectly, and you miss the corner by a mile. You try to throw a good fastball, and you're all stressed out trying to throw it. Next thing you know, it's just a straight dead dart right down the middle.
Yeah.
Of the plate. It's when those guys are relaxed, the hand movement, everything, the way the ball releases, and all that. That's where.
Well, and
I just from there too. So
I mentioned the other day too. Is he predictable? Is his, it seems like his nasty. Mm-hmm. They're on to his nasty. Like he's throwing good stuff. It seems like it anyway. I mean, his
beef of what he used to be. What he used to bring to the table was
English.
He was overwhelming people by the speed and numbers, but dear Lord.
Yeah.
When what's his name? Aroldis Chapman hit 104 miles an hour, people about fell on their faces like, are you kidding me? Dude, we got starters throwing that, close to that now. So when you come in and throw 101 miles an hour in the ninth inning, they're like, sweet. Yeah, well, we've been seeing this for the last 6 innings with so-and-so. And
100 miles an hour has become normalized, in a sense. It's not what it used to be. So Randy Johnson wouldn't be Randy Johnson anymore.
I mean, he's still what he was mentally.
But in terms of the speed.
Right. He was not going to overpower you.
But back then you didn't have pitching machines that threw as fast as him.
The bird that he hit.
Right.
That's true. That poor bird.
May it rest in peace.
Probably watched that more than I should have.
There's not much left of that bird.
Yeah, there were pieces all over the field.
Yeah. Yeah. So is the other answer for Class A to maybe take a step back for a few weeks, months, and
put them into a position where you're up by 10 and just say, figure it out. We're walking out here with a victory.
No, they did that last game. They were up 6-1.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They put him in and he gave up 2 runs.
Yeah.
And they won 6-3. So they did that.
The argument here is, though, this is a guy that's a proven commodity. We know what he does when he's on his game. It's not like your analogy of the college student. This guy's is a proven commodity. He's pitched at a high level.
He's a stud.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But we started this with Tristan McKenzie, who, what was that, in 2022 was pretty much a stud.
Yeah.
Now his was an actual injury. He didn't get surgery for, but he's never been the same since.
No.
Some pitchers, they have a good year or 2 good years, and they fall off. Yeah. Some hitters, they might hit 300 with 30 homers and 100 RBIs, and they never sniff 300 again.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is this a case of,
in our case, that's what we call the platoon and right, when they bring in a guy that was hitting 350 somewhere else. He comes over here and never hits but a $110, $120, and platoons with another outfielder. We're familiar.
It's a good movie.
Is it so early in the season that maybe we're overreacting a little bit? Is it?
Yeah, probably a little
bit. There's time for this to straighten out. I mean, we went on a streak of 4 or 5 games where our pitching was, it was shut out or 1 run, very few hits. So collectively, pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
Again, it was against Chicago and then it ended up against the Royals there before we.
But the Royals are not bad.
No,
that's a good squad.
No, but I would go back to Tristan, maybe, because last year he was just coming back from the injury, spent most of the year in the minor leagues.
The bullpen might be a good place for him.
Trying to figure out how to pitch out of the bullpen as opposed to him. I think in my mind, there's more room for grace.
Yeah.
Now, Class A had an, I don't say historic, but because there's been other good seasons, but borderline historic season last year. Gave up 5 earned runs all of last year. In 6 appearances this year, he's already given up more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he's already given up 7 earned runs this year.
Yeah.
So that is not a, let's work our way through it. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I hate to say something drastic.
6 earned runs and 7 Ks.
Yeah.
So that's not a very good.
No.
That's not where we want to be.
No, his ERA, your closer's ERA is over 7.
In the good words of Drew Hannon, no so bueno.
Yeah. Not so bueno.
Not so bueno.
Same thing.
Muy mal.
Lost me.
Muy mal.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been
all
Been
Greek
good to see
me.
the bats.
I was gonna say
come back alive.
on the bright side, the bats, which actually, not to interrupt you, but it
I mean,
been good
I'm
hitting
used
at
to
the
it.
bottom of the order.
I'm used to it, so whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean, Quan is Quan.
Right.
You know, Santana's had moments.
Nolan Jones looked like he might be making this.
Arias.
Yeah, there have been, you know, who was it? Schneemann that hit the kind of little league home run the other day. Did you
I missed that.
I didn't see that either.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
I liked him when he first came up.
Yeah,
He's
yeah. So
an okay player. I mean, good.
we're
good energy
still
burst.
in the bottom half of the league batting. You know, I don't know that it doesn't seem like that's going to be our identity. I think our identity is going to be our pitching
Right.
and our fielding, which right now
Is
we're
it
at the
business?
bottom of the league in
No,
fielding. But you know, this early, if we can, you know, fix some of these, you know, we're 8-7. You know, we're sitting in second in our division. It's not like we're 5 games back or
Right.
10 games back at this point. You know, it's just, I think it's something to keep an eye on for sure. You know,
Yeah.
the things we thought we were going to be strong in, we're just not strong in yet.
And I was looking at that whole scenario, and you know, baseball, it's a long season. I mean, like I said, every game we play, we still have 162 games left, so there's that. But you kind of look at like some of the spark plugs from last year, like Tyler Freeman's gone, but I feel it's an upgrade with the Nolan Jones. You get a more consistent bat, you know, and a good glove. But the one piece I totally forgot all about was David Fry. David Fry is just that piece you can just plug in anywhere. Hey, you're struggling at second base. Guess what? We'll put David Fry there. We're struggling in the outfield. We'll put David Fry there. We need a guy to come in and catch. We need some first base. I mean, he's just that guy, and he's been missing. And it got me thinking, okay, so in this particular current lineup, you know, when he comes back, who loses their place to him? Because, like I said, the bats just started kind of kicking back up. Martinez just got called up. Schneemann, I think, probably is the guy that gets the boot in that case, but it's just interesting. I mean, long season.
When do they expect Fry back? I mean,
I think it's summer, early summer.
Yeah, I
on the 60.
believe so. Here, I'll look it up real quick.
Bieber's another one that's on his way back too, but he'll be. I don't think you count on him anytime soon. I mean, he'll be.
he's
I
on
think he's on the
15
15
day.
right now. Yeah, 15, and then there's going to be some rehab. I mean, that kid hasn't pitched for a long time.
Says he threw his 4th bullpen session February 28th.
Oh, so he is throwing right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is March. That was a March update. So
That's still.
So he was injured in June,
Surgery, right?
or had surgery, but it said he'll need 6 to 8 months to return as a DH.
Oh, you're talking
David Fry.
David Fry
Yeah, sorry. So, you know,
as a DH.
yeah. Now I was looking because we were talking about the bats heating up, and I hadn't paid attention to averages. I just looked game to game, but the averages are actually pretty abysmal.
yeah,
Stephen Kwan at 322, Arias is at 267, and Santana's at 250. But listen to all the sub 200s: Manzardo, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie, Austin Hedges, Lane Thomas. Your boy Nolan Jones is at 143.
Hey, but he was at like 0.88.
So when you have, 1, 2 part time with 3, they'll count as 3. 4 regular starters all hitting under 200,
That's terrible.
and Jose's only at 229.
Yeah.
So
He's
I
hitting
think
out
they're getting
much as he's
timely
feeling
hits,
right now.
not necessarily a lot of hits. They're making them count, which was what they did last year.
Yeah.
They strung together some hits to get runs enough to win. And then the bullpen would shut it down.
It's just so weird to think like nothing's really changed from last year to this year.
They didn't get anybody really,
Right.
of
But
significance.
they were still playoff contending team, and looking like a hot young team, and so it's just frustrating to see. I mean, you lose Jimenez, but dude's bat was gone. I mean, fielding is his game all day long, but his bat's just not been the same. He had some good bright moments, so it's not like
you want to.
he's tearing it up right now.
He's not playing too bad.
No, he's But he's done that.
He'd be second on our team in home runs.
He's done that in the last few years too, where he shows up strong in the beginning of the season, and then by the end of it, you're just like, "Good God, thank God you've got a platinum glove because your bat
Horrible.
is terrible."
Yeah.
No, there obviously is 162 games left, but
At least.
yeah, maybe more.
Might be.
But to me, we're 8-7. I think in spite of the way we're playing,
Right.
not because of the way we're playing. I think it's been a lot of regression from where we were at the end of last year. Now, it's the beginning of a new year. Some of that maybe is to be expected. But I think there's too many people right now that have taken a step back, but I don't know that anybody's actually taken a step forward.
Yeah.
Who's shown up so far this year and you've been like, oh my gosh, that guy's good, or he's better than last year. We're talking about it. We're talking about everybody in terms of it's early, they'll get better, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not somebody
so far,
that
David Fry.
we don't have our Ty Jerome.
So far, Ty or dummy. David Fry, he's been that guy so far. He hasn't done any worse than he did last year.
Hunter Gaddis. There's a stud.
Yeah,
But he was good last year.
Yeah. I mean, but
Is he better this year? I don't know. I'm just thinking somebody surprising that
Yeah.
has kind of come out, come out of the woodworks, and you're like, man, that guy put in work.
I was talking with you guys before the show a little bit. Gabriel,
He is playing well.
he has not looked like this, and he has never had like a stretch either where he has been like the guy at a position. So I mean, second base got opened up, and he's been kind of pretty much the penciled in everyday starter there with.
Yeah, and maybe that's your surprise guy.
So
that
he's
could be
looked
that
the
guy.
part. He's still weird to me, like that. That's a weird looking second baseman. I think he's like 6'1" or 6'2".
He is.
Like,
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah, but did you see that game? The last
I'm not
game he
saying.
played
I just say he
second base
looks weird. Like
Yeah.
if you're going off of like the OCD, like a second baseman should be like, what was that guy's name? Craig Biggio, like that.
Yeah.
Chuck Knobloch type.
Yeah.
Size guy. Then he looks weird.
No, but
Randy Johnson playing second base.
he was moving like
Well, he's a shortstop by trade. I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
You just said he was tall.
Well, come on now. Already, really.
as early for that.
See how fast I found that button though.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good.
Did you label it?
It's already labeled.
No, but I was impressed. Just some of
42-year-old
the plays
eyes.
some of the plays that guy made at second base, the cross body throw,
Right.
I don't know,
Diving
it was-
catches.
Yeah,
and, I
it
mean,
was-
the one he fielded one behind second base that looked like Jimenez.
Yes.
Back
Yes.
there. Now, I honestly wondered if they wouldn't shift him to shortstop this year and Rocchio over to second base because he had been struggling a little bit with range and making those long throws, and that's where Gabriel's like bread and butter.
Third.
Brought him up into the league, was playing over at short. The other one I was wondering too is like, with Ramirez struggling at fielding so bad right now too, he's another one that like he's a gold glover when it comes to playing second base. That's like his spot. Maybe he's getting to that point now where it's
Get back
time
to
to
his comfort zone.
push you off of the hot corner there, put you at second base, and maybe Gabriel could play a little third. And
Well, Gabriel's listed as a third baseman, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that's. I don't know if he's
Do-
played
do
third
we think-
base this year.
Not even anything we've ever even brought up or talked about, but you were just talking about Ramirez and the errors. Do you think age is a factor at all?
probably
32 now.
is he that young?
He's been around since.
I was gonna say I feel like he's been around forever.
Yeah, but I don't know. What age do fielders begin to decline in their field? I don't know.
Well, the funny thing is, usually when they decline, they jump over to third base. Alex Rodriguez, Cal Ripken.
Yeah,
A lot of those guys jump from there to there. But I mean, maybe when you're getting old and you throw your arm out a bunch, then you jump over to second base. Who knows?
Well, throw it as far. No, like I said, maybe nothing, but it's had a lot of miscues so far early,
Yeah.
and the bat's not popping, so
Yeah.
too much. He's had a couple nice games.
Yeah. Well, like you said, there's still 162 games left. We'll see.
Hopefully they can get it figured out.
Do you know what there's not? There's not any more regular season games left in basketball. Do we think we got the build? I mean, we were young. We've got chemistry. We've got experience with each other. Our coach is new to the ballpark, but he's got us figured out. We're
said
injury free. You know what I mean? We're injury free.
We are healthy.
We are pretty rested. Have not had to deal with a lot of, oh my gosh. Haven't had to deal with a lot of major injuries or anything, that's big setbacks this year. Are we the real deal this year?
Unless somebody wants to go first. But for me, I think we have the talent. But we have shown, I talked a little bit about this, I think, last week, the propensity to struggle against teams with size on the wing. So that part concerns me.
Does DeAndre Hunter
I think he
change
helps
that for you a little bit?
And that's part of what he is probably what I'm most interested to see come these
Dude's
playoffs.
a baller.
Yeah.
Because an absolute baller.
To me, he can't come off the bench and play 20 minutes a game. If he does, you're not going to maximize your ability in the playoffs.
Right.
Are they going to start him? Is Max Strus going to be willing to come off the bench? Are they going to bring him off the bench but still get the lion's share of the minutes? Like, I'm interested to see how Atkinson handles him specifically. Because again,
The whole Hunter Struce.
right. Because those are going to be your top six, with Ty Jerome being 7 and
Right.
Dean Wade being 8. Now, are they going to go deeper than 8? That's a topic we can discuss. But those are going to be your top 8 because you got to have a sub for Mobley and Allen, and that's Dean Wade. You got to have a sub for a guard, that's Ty Jerome, and then you got DeAndre and Max Strus. Now, what happens to Sam Merrill, Isaac Okoro, those types of guys?
Game to game.
Game to game, matchup to matchup.
Right.
Maybe none at all. I don't know.
Maybe you have a big lead.
It'll actually be more interesting if they get deep in the playoffs, because if you guys remember when we used to do that, come conference finals and finals, it was mainly a 7-man rotation.
Yeah.
You'd use a couple guys to spell your bigs and a guy to spell your guards, but those main 5 were getting 40 minutes a game. Out of Ty Jerome, Dean Wade, and either Max Strus or DeAndre Hunter, who gets shut out of that? But again, we're not anywhere near that.
Just another name that you didn't
Yeah.
mention, Sam Merrill.
I said him.
Did you say Sam Merrill? I was going to say he played 71 games in the
He
regular
kind
season.
of buried him in there with Isaac Okoro
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
together.
Yeah. Well, because he is I love Sam Merrill, but he's a one-trick pony.
Right.
He's in there for one reason only. Although he does work hard
He's
defensively. Yes, he's in there to pass the ball. All 4.5 assists, I think he got all year.
All year.
But,
Wait.
good job on those 4.5 assists. No, okay. Can I get to do an aside though, real quick? What they were playing, I think it was an Indianapolis game, 2 games ago, and it was the whitest play ever. So Sam Merrill,
That was politically correct.
yeah, he gets the ball, steals the ball at half court, all alone. Goes up, guy starts chasing him. Going to lay it in, nice little finger roll. All of a sudden realizes that he got caught and just underneath the guy chucked it out to the 3-point line to whoever was there. Breakaway layup, no. Breakaway dunk, not even close.
No.
No.
Nothing.
Breakaway kick out.
Yep, breakaway kick out to whoever was running down at the 3. I don't even think he saw him. But anyway,
Just saw a jersey that looked like his.
yep. Just hoping somebody was following.
Right.
The alternative was a SWAT, so
Maybe. But he was
No,
10 feet ahead of the guy when he started his break.
The alternative was a highlight reel for the other guy.
yeah.
Right. So anyway, that was funny. But no, he's out there. If you're going to play him, he gets 1 or 2 shots. And if he doesn't make them, he's done.
Right.
But I don't even know that you can go to that. To me, that guy is Max Strus.
Right.
Now, Max Strus is a better playmaker. He's a little bit better defender.
He's bigger.
He's a little bit bigger, and he's got more playoff experience. And I think that's what he provides more than his play on the court is what is he going to do getting everybody ready because he's been to a finals.
Yeah.
He's won a finals. him and Tristan are the only two people that really know what that's like because not even Donovan's done it.
Right.
And so
And Tristan will be that guy just sitting on the bench, high-fiving
Yeah.
everybody, but he'll be in their ear.
Right.
That's going to be huge.
Trash minutes and some of the
Right.
But I think Max Strus is going to be a guy that I kind of think you keep him on a short leash because, if you're splitting up positions, your guard spot is you got three guys there. Your bigs, you got three guys there. Those guys are splitting the time at wing. If you're thinking 35 for DeAndre, that's only 13 minutes left
Right.
for Strus, Merrill, Okoro, whoever. So if one of them doesn't have it, they're done. That's kind of the way I look at it. So
well, and you look at
I-
the season stats, which I know aren't indicative of what the playoffs are going to look like, but Hunter's a 25-minute guy, Strus is a 25-minute guy.
Mhm. There's 48 minutes a game. You put those together, that's 50.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. They're
Yeah.
one in, one out. They don't play. There's a couple lineups that they played together
Yeah.
when Hunter would run the 4. And actually, it's a really cool lineup.
Yeah. I like that already.
But because they run Mobley at the 5, Hunter at the 4, Strus the 3, and then
you
the 2
got
guards.
a good presence of offense and defense going.
Yeah. And you don't give a ton up on the glass, but I don't know that's one. That's more of what Golden State did with their death lineup.
Yeah.
They run it in spurts.
Draymond at that
Yeah.
5.
They change the pace up 3-4 minutes at a time, try to bust out a 15-point run, see what happens.
Yeah, and that's one of those ones too where it's like anybody that touches the ball should be able to either shoot a 3
Right.
or score.
Right.
Yeah.
And Hunter is so aggressive defensively that 6'8" underneath the hoop.
He's 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan.
Right. That's like not that big of a subtraction.
When you look at these 7-game series in the playoffs, it's all going to come down to matchups.
Right.
And, I got to imagine who's going to get the majority of the minutes is depending on who we're playing. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
each one of those 4 teams that could be, coming through the play-in series, offer different challenges. So,
All right. So who do we think is going to be the second winner of the play-in, which is who we play, the
the
8th seed?
second winner.
Break them down again.
So it's the Hawks, the Magic, the Bulls, and the Heat.
So I think it's going to be the Magic.
They'll win the first game?
And then the Bulls will win-win.
Okay. So then we would play the Bulls.
Well, that's what I was thinking
Okay.
too. I want Atlanta, but I'd
So
rather-
let's run with that and let's look at the matchup.
Okay.
Right? So let's take it position by position.
So
and see
Derrick Rose.
Michael Jordan, Bill Wennington,
Scottie Pippen.
Wait, what was that real ugly guy? He used to play for them. I couldn't stand him. Wanted to punch him in the face.
Bill Cartwright,
No.
Dennis Rodman.
No.
Like,
Younger.
how long
Way
ago are we
younger.
talking? Oh, Joakim Noah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God. I wanted to punch him
Yeah.
every time I saw him.
Yeah. I had to get to the looks part of it.
Who does Michael think is ugly?
Everyone.
All right, so let's look at the Bulls roster.
All right.
So,
I'm getting there.
I'm not. All my devices are used for technology.
do you even know anybody? All right, so what about Zach LaVine?
No, he's with.
Okay,
Someone else
I'm testing you.
Who is he with?
He's with Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah,
DeMar
So-
DeRozan.
also Sacramento.
Right. Actually, I don't think I can name.
Vucevic.
Okay, so yeah, their starting lineup is going to be their 3 big pieces: Kobe White, who kills us;
Yeah, he's.
Vucevic. Okay, and what does Vucevic mean? Who's going to have to play a lot of minutes?
Allen.
Jared Allen. Yeah.
Yep. And then Josh Giddey.
That's 4.
Well, but I'm saying that he's actually kind of a matchup issue. So who do you put on him? He's essentially a 6'8" point guard. He runs off the ball.
You put LeBron on him then.
Oh, cool.
Wait, do we not have him?
Is he still there? He's coming back. Coming home.
So
No, I think
our
that's your DeAndre Hunter potential matchup. Max Strus, that's a bad matchup for Garland
I was going to
and
say
Mitchell.
Garland seems to be the one that everybody's worried about. With they're going to run picks and switches, and he's going to get put in positions where he just is not going to be able to.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that could do that.
It's and then trying to think who else, because they rotated once Zach left. I'm trying to think who their other starters were.
What's this?
I think it was Patrick Williams, but again, that's going to be Mobley's matchup, which that's actually a good matchup for Mobley on the other end.
Yeah.
So that's an advantage for us. But how many minutes does Vucevic play?
About 30, 31.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
A few.
Yeah, 31. So he'll go up. I just was thinking when he's out, because they don't have a lot of size behind him, that lineup with Hunter at the 4 would work.
Right.
But I don't know. If he's at 31 now, that's probably going to turn to 38 come playoffs. So I don't know if that's.
Yeah, they got a few guys coming off the bench that played, a lot of games. Uzelis, Phillips.
Kevin Herter is probably the other guy that'll start, which means, so you've got Kobe White, that's Mitchell or Garland, but then you're going across the front, they're going 6'8", 6'7", 6'8".
Right.
They're all listed as guards.
Yeah.
They're all guards.
Yeah.
National.
So you're looking at that. There's a big, they don't have I don't think they have a ton of depth that I'm worried about, but also, I need to check. No. Okay. I think Ball is done for the year, but he was coming off the bench anyway, Lonzo. But now you've got that big wing lineup, and what will it look like?
Right.
If we start Strus, we're going, 6'1" and 6'3" and 6'5" against 6'1", 6'8", 6'8".
Yeah.
Now, again, Mobley, we have the advantage because, Williams is physical, but I don't think he's as much. Mobley tends to struggle against somebody else that has his length.
Yeah.
So,
even if Lonzo Ball was healthy, he's not a
no,
he's not a difference.
No, but he's just a big guard.
Yeah.
He's got the size, that would potentially present issues.
Yeah.
And he wasn't playing bad until he got hurt.
Right.
So I just was saying that's another guy with size
Yeah.
that they're bringing off the bench. So it's an interesting. The good news is I don't think, whereas Oklahoma City can throw the 6'8", 6'8", 6'8" at you,
Yeah.
Right.
and they're all incredible defenders. These are guys who are good with size, but they're not guys who are going to try to lock you up defensively.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't have a problem scoring, but it does present some matchup issues at the other end of the floor,
Right.
depending on who we go. But that's where I say you got to have Hunter in there.
Yeah.
He's got to be 35 minutes a game.
Right. You can't
In my
bring that
mind.
off the bench. That would be weird.
Yeah.
We really didn't see. I can't remember late in the season after the trade, obviously, where we saw them simulate a playoff lineup where they
No.
ran a game like that where they put heavy minutes on Hunter.
No.
It really
No.
hasn't been.
No, he was the one thing and I actually admire about it with Atkinson is from day one this year, he had a plan when it came to intentional rest, rotation, minutes, and he never deviated.
Intentional rest.
Yeah.
That's what you were
Yeah. Scheduled rest. And that's what we were looking for earlier.
found it.
Yeah. But, like when they were on, I don't know, 13 games or 14 games of their initial 15-game win streak, here they go, this hot start, they're winning. They had a planned day of rest for Mitchell, and they did it.
Yeah.
He had a goal to not expend anybody's minutes beyond a certain barrier. So even when they were going through that stretch where they were struggling, he didn't deviate.
Yeah.
There were some games where they might have got 35, 36 minutes, in tighter games against close teams, but never pushed it where, you look at the Knicks, those starters were regularly getting 40, 42 minutes a game,
Yeah.
in order to win some games.
Yeah.
Atkinson never deviated, but I think that's why we're going into the season or the postseason healthy.
Well, and you'd mentioned this number 8 of 8 guys. That's like the typical? That's what you see.
Yeah, that's your early playoff rotation. Usually dwindles to about 8.
But we're a pretty deep team.
We are, and I think that's one of what's allowed us to keep our minutes down. But here, when every game counts, and every team is scheming, every team is breaking down every ounce of video, everything becomes a matchup. Boston, when we play them, hopefully in the conference finals, they're going to run a pick and roll and force Garland to switch everything, or force us to play screens differently, right?
Yeah.
So, it's something that's going to happen. Now, are you willing to only play Donovan Mitchell 30 minutes so that Sam Merrill can keep his same 15 minutes a game?
Not
so that Isaac Okoro can come in and get his 12 to 15 minutes? No, you want Donovan playing 38 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see anything in those last 4 games, or last 3 games anyway, after they clinched? Excuse me. From anybody off the bench or that started that typically doesn't start that was super encouraging?
No, other than this last game, but it's not going to impact the playoffs, which is honestly really cool. So it was Indiana played some of their starters for the first half.
Yeah.
Miles Turner played, and Nemhard played, and they played some of those guys in the first half, and we just ours were all role players. But Jalen Tyson,
he had a big game, 31 points.
31 points. My goodness gracious, what's his name? The guy they drafted 2 years ago in the second round. He was a number 1 overall recruit coming out of high school. Had some issues, went to Memphis. I can tell you, I can't think of his name. Imani Bates.
Oh, I thought that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, Imani Bates, put up 25 or something.
Yeah.
And then the other guy that they just called up from the G League had up over 20.
Okay.
So that was encouraging. Now, again, it's against mostly backups, but the way they played, the type of style, they were, they let the ball fly. They didn't change anything. They didn't play tight, is encouraging for future years.
Yeah.
But it's going to have no bearing on the playoffs.
Yeah.
And really, after they clinched, it was more just survive. So guys were playing minutes. The one game, only a couple guys sat. Mobley played, Allen played, Garland played. And they played decent minutes. But I heard Atkinson. They asked him a question, and he said something to the effect of when he was at, I can't even think of where he was at the one time. They did the rest coming up to the playoffs, and it came back to bite him.
Yeah.
And he said, so I'm not, I learned my lesson. I'm not resting my guys for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I want to keep it rolling. And so I respect it. That's his philosophy, and that works.
And it didn't backfire.
No.
The concern always is health, and you're only, a split second away from,
But you could do that. Who was it that broke their hand on like a fire extinguisher or something? Or busted their hand open on a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
Albert Bell punched a wall once.
Was
broke
it,
broke the thermostat
off of Albert Bell.
And Njoku with the
Albert
fireworks.
And Njoku with the fire at his home.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be playing to get injured.
Jason Pierre-Paul blew his fingers off.
Yeah.
Who was the guy with the shot himself? The Plaxico Burress?
Oh,
Oops.
Him too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Steelers.
Misfire.
so is there anybody that surprised at the end of the year? No. Merrill had a big game, actually in the second half of one of the games, and it had like 5 threes, and he was, 2 for 7, and then started the fourth quarter, hit like 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Like those are moments that are encouraging, that because I think that was the number 1 seed clinching game.
Okay.
And he actually helped them come back to win. So those things are encouraging, but I don't see where a guy like him, a guy like Okoro, those types of guys are going to win you games they might be able to help you in spells if there's foul trouble, those types of things. But otherwise, you're not going to see a lot from them, I don't think.
I mean,
I could be wrong.
That was kind of what I was hoping was that, we clinched the playoffs. We were one game, either a win or a Celtics loss away from, the home court advantage. And I was hoping we'd see something from the depth that would be like, this is where these guys are going to step it up. And
This will be the guy.
Well, I think what you got from the depth was the number one seed.
Yeah.
Because that allowed your guys to go and only play 28, 30 minutes a game all year long is because you had the depth.
Yeah.
See New York for what happens if you don't.
Right.
So yes, the depth played an extremely valuable part, but it was from day one through now.
Right.
It allowed them to have planned days of rest for Mitchell, planned days of rest for Mobley, planned days of rest for Garland. Where, you could sit Mitchell and Garland, or
Yeah.
bring in Ty Jerome and you don't miss a beat.
Right.
Look at every game that he started or every game he played extended minutes. The guy scored over 20 points a game.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that you sat one of the other studs. So, it was the depth that allowed you to get the number one seed, not one particular moment to me.
So if we keep our current pace next week, when we get back together, we will be a game or two into round one.
One game. Sunday.
One game.
Well, yeah, one game because it'll probably be Sunday is their first game,
Okay.
the 20th.
Yeah.
And then there should be a day between games, so they'll have one game done.
So
So we'll have an idea of what the plan is
Should be excited.
and who the opponent is.
Playoff basketball is always way more fun.
But I put a
82
poll out on
games of them.
X. I don't know if you guys saw, but who do you hope they play? I don't
think
want
I
the Bulls
voted-
to be the opponent.
you
I
do
think I
not
voted
want the
Atlanta.
Bulls?
Yeah. I actually voted Atlanta too. That's who I
I
think.
guess if I had to pick who I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be Chicago. That's who I think it's
Yeah.
going to be.
Who do you want it to be?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay. So we're all on the same page
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
Miami's got too much history
Yeah.
and too much experience. Atlanta has too much size and scoring ability
Right.
to me, and a guy that we always struggle with. And Atlanta's got injuries. I'm never a fan of Trae Young being successful in the playoffs. He'll win you a game, but he'll also shoot you out of two of them.
And he may score 60 points and nobody else scored anything. You'll
I mean, and the thing is
10 to
we have
65.
guys now, not that anybody can guard him. The kid's extremely talented, but you can put Okoro on him. That's a game you could say, Okoro, if he gets hot in a game, you can say, Okoro, go lock him down.
yeah.
And he'll make them work, wear them out. But you can also abuse them on the other end of the floor. So that's why I say Atlanta. But
Guess who's back again? Shady's back.
He is back, ladies and gentlemen. He is all the way back. Joe Flacco is
Flacco for
back
Flacco.
with the Browns.
Or as I've heard him called, Flaccavelli.
Now, we had a discussion on our last show, or episode, whatever they call this now, about this particular guy. And we're all on the same page with wanting this guy. We watched the press conference. There was definitely something about the way that they presented this where they were like, yeah, cool. Flacco was good for us, but we're not doing it, basically. And we were all basically there saying, except for Drew, we were all saying, yeah, we want him. We didn't want him to leave in the first place. We didn't want to go through all of last season without him, but it didn't look like he was coming back. And then out of nowhere, they make that announcement that he signed the 1-year deal and blew the house down in my household. I mean, that was probably some of the best Browns news I've heard in a long time. Guy that's familiar with the system, cost you like $4 million. You didn't lose any draft picks. All the points we were making on why Drew didn't want to go with Kirk's cousin.
The best news of the Flaccavelli signing is no longer do we need to talk about Kirk's cousin.
Right.
Sorry, Jay.
There still is a possibility
Let's see how many old guys we can just throw on our
Yeah.
team, and then go draft Tyler.
No, we all were 100% in favor of Flacco coming back.
Right.
I didn't see it as a
I
possibility.
didn't either. Not even a little bit.
I guess looking back over the last couple of weeks, our first episode, we talked about that press conference from Haslam when he, basically said the quiet part out loud that, big swing and a miss with the Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And I think, maybe we all agree on this too, that, Deshaun Watson did not want a fan favorite in Joe Flacco coming back last year.
No, he literally said that.
Yeah.
Like he literally came out and
Yeah.
said he was not a fan of this, that it was going to be too hard to keep the locker room, on his side. He was supposed to be the leader of the team, and it just wasn't going to
Yeah.
bode well, amongst the fans and all of that for a guy like that to come out of sitting on his mom's couch and lead the Browns to the playoffs when this guy's throwing 30-yard darts to the 30-yard line.
Yeah, he and obviously the 5-6 games that we had Flacco as our starter, even into the playoffs, it was
electric.
it was
It
the
was-
best Browns football that I
I was
could.
going to say I mean, we can attest, because we went and saw the game
were
against
there.
the Jets, and
Yes.
it was the most fun Browns football since the days of Bernie, and that includes the year we went to a playoff with Baker.
Yeah.
I
Like
could
it was
tell
the
you-
most fun football to watch.
I can tell you where I was standing watching some of these games. That's how vivid, because it burns such a memory in my brain.
Yes.
Because the excitement, you didn't expect this at all when he signed with us originally, and to come in there and do what he did was just like, oh my gosh.
No.
and I think
we
after
let him-
everything we went through that season, losing Chubb, Watson not being good,
And we were
then
still on the Watson train
getting
of
hurt,
wanting him to be good too,
Yeah.
which sucked.
Yeah.
So there's some of that is nostalgia. Will he live up to it this year? Who knows? But I don't think there's anybody of the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, of quarterbacks that we were choosing from that was going to come in and do a better job than what he can do.
No, I did. Don't
And
disagree.
I still think, I could be wrong, that this is who they told Miles we were bringing in for now.
it very well could be.
And that is why he smiled and said he knows, but knows they're also going to try to mold a younger quarterback,
Right.
be
Yeah.
it Pickett or somebody through the draft.
Right.
And if Myles Garrett was that excited that he was willing to come back and forgo
Right.
his trade demand,
We should be too.
then then there's no reason we shouldn't be as excited.
Well, and this is, again, this is another, obviously Haslam's words about the Deshaun Watson thing ring true, but this is another nail in that coffin.
Yeah.
Bringing back a guy that he did not want back.
Right.
He didn't want the locker room divided. Well, it's not divided. We're
Nope.
all on the Flacco train.
We hear you loud and
And-
clear, and we 100% agree with you. We do not want this locker room to be divided, buddy.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring Flacco in.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me ask you this.
That's right.
It just hit me.
That's right.
Not that this matters, but Joel Bitonio admitted that he was mulling retirement.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether to, come back, whether to stay, whether to come back, whether to stay. Right around the same time that he decides to come back, Miles signs his contract.
Yeah, they told him. What
Do you
was
think
up.
the reason he came back is because he knew Flacco was coming?
It has to.
I mean,
Good job on keeping it a secret, by the way, all this time too.
well, I mean, I'm not so sure.
Little misdirection with Kirk's cousin.
I think they made a
wish him best,
commitment. My take on it
May
is I
rest in
think they
peace.
made a commitment to bring in a veteran, whether that was Flacco or Kirk's cousin or somebody else. Russell Wilson was obviously in the building, and he had conversations
Right.
with Myles Garrett.
And Miles like, I think I'd rather just chase you than play on the same team with you.
Yeah, I mean,
Did Flacco? He was only on a 1-year deal with the Colts,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
yes.
So he
Yeah.
came into this year as a free agent.
Right.
There was just no reason why it even should have taken this long. So maybe there was a quiet conversation where they're like, "This is the route we want to go. We got to have a conversation with number 4 and let him know
He's done.
this sucks, but we're done."
Yeah.
So maybe that was what the whole.
well,
Both were on the same page of-
System wise, I don't think Flacco was the perfect ideal fit in Indy. He meshed
Stats
really well.
were still not bad.
No, they weren't bad. No, not at all.
Not to interrupt you, but the stats were still respectable.
Right.
Like 240, 250 a game.
Right. But system-wise, I think he fits.
Right.
100%.
And he fit at the end of a season. He came in, I mean,
straight from the couch,
Yes.
throwing Pro Bowl numbers up. Like,
Well, one of the things I heard, and you're a quarterback, so you may, Jason
was a
quarterback, yeah. So you
I
may
can
understand
throw the
this
ball.
better, but one of the things, and this is what Deshaun could never get, when you listen to quarterbacks talk about Deshaun, Flacco, and the system we run, is we rely heavy on the run and then the play action.
Yes.
And the one thing Deshaun was never willing to do was turn his back on the defense.
Yeah.
And that's how you sell a play action.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things Flacco is very good. He can look at the defense, read the defense, know the coverage, turn his back, and still know what he's going to turn around and want to do.
Yes.
And that's what made our offense effective versus some of these other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a neat, again, not being a quarterback, those are the small little things I don't necessarily see, but it made a lot of sense in why our offense, even without Nick Chubb, was able to be that effective
Yeah.
in that offense with Stefanski.
well, maybe a guy like Joe Batonio sitting there saying too, whenever I kick out of my stance, I know
Yeah.
the guy I block is where,
Well,
He's where he's supposed to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they say that all the time too with all these mobile quarterbacks that like, you look at some of the guys that have mobile quarterbacks on their team, their offensive lines are big, but they're fast and they're also pretty athletic because they're in zone-ish type coverages because Lamar could drop back and he does pretty good at staying in
He's
the
gotten a
pocket.
lot better.
Right.
Yeah.
But when he goes, it's because the lines broke down. It's not because he's not where he's supposed to be. But like when guys aren't where they're supposed to be and you're trying to block, those linemen are the first one that get the bad rep. Like you let this guy through.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
'Cause it
I
looks
blocked
like
him where
their
he was
fault to the
supposed
naked
be,
eye.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
took off over here because you couldn't
Unless
see.
you're Jed Wills and your
right, have no
arms
idea
up looking
where-
around like, what do I do?
Right.
He was pretty good at the Olay block.
He did like that.
If we have to give him good credit for something,
Yeah.
that was it.
That was it. He did learn that block.
Yeah.
He did.
Master.
So, but going back to
not knowing
Flacco, I
what
was
he's
thinking
doing.
while you were talking, because you mentioned the offensive line. Just think about some of the clips from that season when Flacco came. You've got Wyatt Teller literally running from off screen to go push a pile. And then who was the wide receiver that came in like he was going to push a pile?
Yeah.
Running downfield trying to push a pile. You got Njoku literally running guys over and pulling guys down the
Right.
field.
Yeah.
Like there was a different personality of that unit once he came in
Yeah.
than what there was before or after.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something he brought in terms of culture, character, effort, focus. I don't know, whatever it is, there's something he brought that we didn't have before.
He doesn't seem like this like super vocal
No,
type guy,
I think
but I
it's,
think he brings an air of,
it's the beard.
It could be. And maybe, I was thinking that maybe Kevin was a little intimidated with the beard. Is his beard better than my beard?
Is he older than I am?
You never know.
Does he
I
think my
still
wife's
think
hot?
most of the women would take Kevin.
I don't know if I had
It's the
to.
only reason the women I know watch the Browns.
If I had to pick, I'd probably go Joe.
He's taller.
But
Yeah,
We
so-
digressed.
So also, I think Flacco is way more willing and able to mentor a young quarterback that's going to come in that we all know if we're going to pick up a quarterback, it's not going to be at number 2. It's going to be a guy that's going to need to be developed. It's going to be a project. And I think, maybe even a combination of Flacco and KP. Kenny,
wait. That
Kenny-
part I don't have memorized as well. Yeah, I agree with you. If we have to bring in Kenny Pickett, then
yeah.
But I will say, because we were talking about it tonight, but I was thinking about it earlier too, is Kenny potentially who we're looking at? Now, I know we looked at all the quarterbacks in the draft, but could we really just go into next year? Because here's what I've struggled with. Could we go into next year with Flacco and Pickett and not draft somebody? And Pickett being the idea that, because his stats, if you look at now, his touchdown to interception ratio is not bad, but his passing statistics otherwise aren't bad. And by all accounts, I can't think of his name right now. The offensive coordinator for Pittsburgh at the time was abysmal.
He was terrible.
The
Mark
offense they
Malone,
ran.
I think his name was Malone.
Canada.
Canada.
Yes,
Matt
yeah,
Canada.
Matt
Who's
Canada.
Mark Malone?
Matt Canada's cousin, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But that his offense was
McKenzie.
abysmal, and so maybe there's something there in the right offense.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, here's what I can't get over in my brain when it comes to that, and it keeps coming back, is how many do you carry on game day?
3.
How many
Matt.
kids?
You know, you have an emergency,
So I'm saying 3 max.
but he's not on the active roster.
Last or a couple of years ago, we were only running 2 quarterbacks.
Right.
And he was
the
on
third one sits on the practice
Right.
squad. Are we really going to draft a guy in the first or second round and put him on the practice squad?
no.
Or are we
They'll
going to
run
eat
3.
up that
They'll run
spot and
3.
have?
Yeah, they'll run 3.
You think we'll keep 3 on the active roster?
Have to.
I don't think
Because the Browns are just so known for.
But we haven't done it even with poor quarterback play.
Yeah, we have.
No, you're allowed your emergency third quarterback.
A lot of dress.
Yeah, but he's not part of the active, unless I'm mistaken, is not part of the active roster, the 53-man roster for game day.
No, we've
47.
had
47, thank you. Sorry. 53 is the actual roster. But the
We've
game
had-
day is 47.
I'm pretty sure we dressed 3, like ready to go.
You always dress 3, but 1 is not part of the game day roster.
he's only allowed
It
to
happened
go in if
from
the other two
I'd have to
get
see
it
that
happened from
because-
whatever year that was. I think was it the 49ers where both quarterbacks got injured and they had to pull a tight end to run quarterback. Whatever. So they made the rule that you're allowed the emergency.
So it's a new rule.
Yeah, in the last few years.
I was going to say because it's
Yeah.
always been if you had 3
Yeah.
on your roster, that was your 3. Then
Right.
the other ones.
Right. But I'm trying to think now that we're saying this. So
In this
last year,
situation, you have to run 3. You have
last year was Winston and DTR. But when Watson and Winston wasn't DTR on the practice squad?
No, I don't remember that because somebody would have snagged him for sure. I would have thought.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the Eagles were willing to
Yeah,
take him.
so last year, the way it worked is the emergency quarterback had to be on the 53-man roster,
Okay.
but
he wasn't, part of
on the
game day.
47-man
Okay,
roster, but
okay.
he was
So we can still
eligible.
roster 3 QBs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, there's no way you don't draft or go for an undrafted free agent quarterback.
No, I'm not saying they
You know,
wouldn't,
yeah,
but I'm
just
saying, are they going to spend a second or third round pick
No.
on a QB
that they're going to
when he's just going to be the emergency
Yeah.
third? That's where I was going with that.
If a guy they really like, maybe a Tyler Shuck.
Who?
Yep, Tyler Shuck. You heard it here.
Who's that?
That kid's there in the third round, and we have 2 picks. I would not be shocked at all. That's
I
a
would
kid
be
that I'm
shocked.
enticed by.
I would be extremely shocked if we used.
Would you be shocked?
I would be shocked.
But you wouldn't be shocked.
I'd be both.
Okay.
I'd be shocked and shocked.
Gotcha.
I'd be Howard. So was
Now,
it work that
depending
way
on-
still?
Yeah,
No.
good transition there too. Will Howard, yeah.
No,
Speaking of a guy who is willing to turn his back on a defense, Will Howard, perfect play action quarterback right there.
Yeah.
6'4".
4.64. He's growing on me. I know he had a bad pro day, but I keep going back to how he did in the playoffs.
Yeah,
And he was, I don't want to say perfect, but he was
He was good.
pretty darn close against every top team in the country.
And I got to say,
Against a bunch of guys who are going to get drafted way ahead of him.
I think out of all the Ohio State quarterbacks, he's the one that has been the least impressive recently, but I think will have the longest run in the NFL other than CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
I just think he's got the build. He's got the arm. He just looks like the NFL type quarterback. And I think sometimes these college kids come in and they run the college style offense. It's just not for them. But then they get up here to the NFL and they run these more pro style offenses and it just fits them better. And he's one that I think will be a better pro than he was college. I hope so because I feel like the Browns.
but you were on the
are
Justin Fields train.
I still am.
I would love to have Justin
He's
Fields.
just athletic. If you can just find some way to dial into that, like that would be.
I would
just
love
such
to
a
see,
good talent.
not that I believe the moniker, I would love to have seen him under the tutelage of the QB whisperer, Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah,
And
That
see if,
sounded like a dig,
I don't believe it, but that's what
but
I've heard him
it's-
call.
it
that's
sounded.
the rumor.
That's the
sounded like a
rumor
dig.
because the
Who's he
only one
whispering
that's
to in
looked
Cleveland?
really good, huh?
I said, who's he been whispering to in Cleveland? Joe Flacco.
Hope,
Just Joe.
Hopefully, he has not been whispering too close to Watson because he's got alleged
things. So back to
you don't want to whisper in his ear and then find out
So
you're on a massage table or something.
Deshaun Watson and the Diddy parties, that's why we have the shortage of baby oil now.
Right,
Huh?
right.
Did you need some?
Cleveland Captain
I
Oil.
need to- Yeah. So the other intriguing position in the draft, obviously quarterback is. I think they're taking one. I think it's going to be a mid round. I think it's going to be a third, fourth round. Shuck, Howard, one of those big guys. I think that's it's a project QB. I see them taking. But the other position is running back. It's a deep draft. We have a pick
We
at
have to take
33.
So
And you look at our running game last year, and
it was
it
it was about as good as Jose Ramirez fielding right now.
yes.
I think I'm not digressing. I'm going to say this to encourage you because I like you, Jason.
Thank you.
So we're going to encourage Jason right now. I think we solidified what we're doing in number 2 when we picked up Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
I think go ahead, write it down, lock it up. Travis Hunter to the Browns.
Yeah, I think that one's guaranteed.
I also think we solidified that we will not be trading back up into the first round to get a quarterback. I
I'm
also
not
think
convinced.
I am, but that's me. I am convinced that 33rd pick will be for another high-end player, whether it be running back. Actually, running back's the only position I see making sense right there. And there is a good handful right there at that 33rd pick. But I think what it also does is it solidifies that, like you said, we're going to go after one of these quarterbacks. I think it's going to be a Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, maybe way later on. What's his name? Kelly Shopik? No, just kidding. Sorry. My son's like
Riley Leonard?
driving something by the
Who you
microphone, it sounds
You
like.
talking
right now.
quarterbacks?
I'm talking, from Ohio State. The other one that
Kyle McCord.
Kyle McCord, yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of those late round guys, Tyler Shook, maybe. That's another one of those ones where if he grows a beard, it might become awkward in the room where everybody's got the same age and the same beard. You didn't catch that?
No, sorry, I was
God,
listening
that
to the tractor
was a
and
good one.
formulating my thought. Sorry, what'd you say?
I was saying that if you draft Tyler Shook and he grows a beard, that might become very awkward in the locker room.
Too many beards.
Trying to figure out who's got the better beard, who's older, who's younger,
As I say,
who's,
Shuckard
you know,
has some gray.
all that fun jazz. So
No, but where I struggle is right now we're looking for our quarterback of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't think a guy like Kyle McCord, a guy like Will Howard, a guy like Tyler Shuck, if you don't think he is that guy, then why waste a draft pick on him? But if you think he's that guy, why don't you take him earlier before somebody else has the chance to get him?
Yeah.
That's where mentally I'm like, why just waste a pick seeing if he can be something? Because is any of those guys, and maybe they are they going to be any better than Pickett?
Well, I mean, how long is Pickett's contract?
I don't know.
Right?
What's he got?
Got him,
We
what,
traded
2
for him, so I don't know
2
what his
years?
contract is. That what it is? 2 years?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We got him for 2 years.
Okay.
I mean, this would be he was with Pittsburgh for 2 years. He went to Philly. And he's on a rookie
resign
contract,
anything
so we
with
got him
Philly?
for a year, plus maybe we have the team option then for the 5th year. So
Franchising,
and you
probably.
got Flacco for a year.
right.
So right now, and we've got Watson in theory, we've got him for 2 years.
He's on the books for 2 years.
He's on the
yes.
books for 2 years. So, I see them getting the guy that they want, the guy that they look at and say, this is the system quarterback. This is the guy we want that we're going to develop in the mid rounds. That's going to be locked into a 4-year, 5-year contract. I don't see him going back into the first round for him. I don't see him liking anybody enough. I think they probably look at
But see,
a Tyler Shuck, a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord,
but let me ask you a
and
question.
say any of those guys could work.
Are any of them better than Kenny Pickett?
I don't know.
I don't
but-
either.
but-
But
we don't know what we got with Kenny Pickett yet. We think we may have something.
we have a whole lot more tape in the NFL to be able to gauge if Stefanski thinks he can be successful in our offense.
Yeah.
So that's where I just struggle on a guy who had one decent year
Yeah.
and 5 years of injury,
Yeah.
or one guy who wasn't good enough to get into big college, but then came to High State and had a good year.
Sure.
You
But
know,
he's
or
got
Kyle
first
McCord,
round-
who-
he's at the end of a first round contract, even though it's a rookie deal. It's still
Yeah.
first round salary. And we're talking about drafting a guy in the third or fourth round, having him for 4 years on a much less. Much
Yeah, but by
less
the time
salary.
Pickett's contract is up, we'll be rid of Watson. So we'll have that money
the flex.
to offer the next quarterback.
Yeah.
So and again, I'm not saying I can see why you would want to draft somebody. Tyler Shuck's the one who makes the least amount of sense unless it's strictly financial.
Or they see,
see-
or they're convinced.
But
you
but
know?
see, you're only getting that length of control
Yeah.
if you get him in the first round.
Well, you still get 4 years. Rookie
And
contract's going
the
to be 4
potential
years.
of a beard competition.
That's true.
You do like the beer
Can't
competition.
throw that out. Back to the running back conversation, though.
We did.
Just
We were talking
remember
about that.
another prominent Cleveland Brown that was drafted at the top of the
Second
second
round.
round.
Nicholas
Nicholas
Jamal,
Chubbs.
Or remember
which
what?
I'm still crossing my fingers that we can bring him in.
Yeah.
That
I think he's coming
I-
back.
that he can be some semblance of the runner. I still believe in.
So there's been
Batman.
talks about that one, that like the intention is the Browns are bringing him back, that he wants to be back. He has not even scheduled any visits.
No, that's
to
what I mean.
go- to go
I don't
visit
think he has
other
any desire
teams.
to go anywhere else.
They basically were trying to see what the market was going to be for a guy like him, and he's just kind of like, just pay me whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know why they're waiting so long to do it. If there's other things that may fall off, I don't know how.
Here's
it all
my
works,
prediction.
Well, it might be
I think
cap
they-
related too.
Maybe that's what I'm saying.
What can they pay them once they sign their rookies,
Right.
all the free agents?
That's
They
what
get
that's
all
what
the
I'm saying.
season ticket holders in the stadium for the pre-draft party and the Journey concert, and they're going to announce
That would be
that there's a signing,
absolutely
Nick Chubb.
amazing.
He's going to
Remember
come up on the
those?
stage.
We were walking out of the stadium that one time. They had all those shirts that said Nick
Yeah.
Chubb. That's what they're going to do at the Journey
right.
concert.
That would actually
Welcome
be epic.
back, Nick Chubb, to the
Yeah.
Browns.
Yeah, he's going to smash the ham or the guitar.
And Kenny
O'Marion Hampton.
Pickett.
Could O'Marion Hampton be?
I think he's a great player.
I mean, I think he fits the mold
In a
for
lot of the
the AFC North.
mocks that I've done, I can't pass him up if he's there at 33.
I'm the same way.
But I also, this is where I fight myself. There's so much running back talent. If one of the quarterbacks that we deem, whether it's Dart, Milrow, somehow Sanders, drops near us at 33 or at 33, I think you got to take them.
Yeah.
You know, that
See, and I've been struggling
But-
between the tackle out of Ohio State at 33.
Simmons?
Yeah, Simmons or O'Marion Hampton.
How deep?
You know, Judkins has been there at 67 in most of the
I was
mocks.
going to say,
Savion,
how far
you
do
got
you think these
Judkins,
running
you've
backs
got-
will drop? Well,
Who?
you know, some of these, just the running backs in general. Like, will there be a big run on running backs? Will there be a spot where, you know, like you said, Judkins is there at
67.
yeah, like.
crazy.
I don't think Hampton falls that far.
No.
But the kid from what is it, Arizona?
Scatterbo?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
Scatterbo.
that's another kid that's intriguing.
Yeah, he's been there.
Peyton Hillis.
You know,
2.0.
that kid from Iowa
Take it.
is another
Just don't
one.
put him on the Madden cover.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb Johnson.
Caleb. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Caleb
say Kyle.
Johnson.
Yeah.
So
I take him too.
It's a
That's what I mean. I think one of those is going to be there at 67. Like, I just don't see, you know, now, could the success of the teams that had Henry and Barkley this year
yeah.
make teams want to invest in a good running back now?
Yeah.
Possible, where there could be a run. But then if teams make a run on running backs, now you've got all these other good players that will drop,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, that you could get at 33. So it's,
Linemen, defensive tackles,
yeah,
all the
quarterbacks.
Here's just, you know,
Good.
do,
Break it down.
could it be the first 4 rounds all offense?
Every
you
mock
look
draft I do,
It
I
seems
can't,
like
I
it's,
have to.
it seems like that's the way
It's
it goes.
A receiver, a quarterback, a running back, and a tight end.
because we needed all.
Every
Well,
time.
I mean, our offense was anemic, and that's being very generous.
Watch us go defense on everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Travis Hunter. We're actually going to put him at DB. We're never going to play
Yeah,
a wide
yeah.
receiver. Defensive tackle.
Linebacker.
Guys we've never even heard of.
It very, very well could. I hate to say that, but I think it very well could. But I also could see the top 4 rounds, and what we got 5 picks in 4 rounds or 6 picks in 4 rounds.
5.
So, I mean,
When
very
is
well
the
could
draft
be.
exactly? What are we at?
24th.
24th.
We are
Well,
10 days
the
out
first round.
from this current episode right now. We are 10 days out
Yeah.
from the draft. So that's
We'll have one more episode after this before the draft.
yeah, we'll definitely maybe we should do some mock drafts.
I think that'd be great for the Monday before.
Fun time there.
Yeah.
We'll also have the playoff game.
Oh, we'll have one playoff game,
And we'll also have 162,
more baseball
More
games.
baseball games to talk about.
right?
Yeah. It's the one intriguing part for me, not one, I mean, there's a lot of intriguing parts, but the hardest part about this draft versus others is there are, like, not even at number 1, there's no clear cut sequence of drafting.
No.
Like you could go a million different ways in these mock drafts and not be surprised.
Right.
You know, I would be no less surprised if we took Shador at 2 or if he fell to us at 33. Like I could see both of those being possibilities.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, do you think that him making the announcement that he's not going to the draft?
not everybody
think that
does.
means-
I think it's interesting because, you know, it seems to
it's
me that
primetime
he,
Sun.
it's the cameras are there, and if he knows he's going to fall a little bit,
Yeah.
you don't want the cameras panning to you
Right.
after every draft pick. Now, if he's at home, there's still going to be cameras there too, you know, but it's a lot harder to hide that
Yeah,
when
can
you
go out-
don't know where the cameras are.
You can go out to where the grills are,
Yeah.
fry up some ribs or something, or
Yeah.
go swimming. I don't know where he lives.
Why would he go swimming?
I mean, why not? It's draft day.
Isn't he in Colorado?
I don't know. Maybe
It's kind of
I
cold.
mean, just because he played for Colorado doesn't mean he lives there.
That's
I
true.
mean, his dad's coaching there, though.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they got.
LeBron lives in Akron.
No, he lives in LA.
He lives in Akron.
Well, he's a house in Akron.
Don't lie. I heard a fun clip from Dion the other day talking about his son, and I don't know when his arm became weak. You know, he's throwing 70 yards across his body, and all of a sudden his arms become weak, and it got me fired up again because he was talking about how he's got a strong arm and he was made for this. When you put that name on your back, he was born for this moment. I was like,
That's one of the things.
Darn
though,
you.
I was gonna say there are things about him I love, but
All right, well,
I
what?
can't-
What?
what
Yeah.
the fact that it's kind of like Cam Ward, where he's been, he's turned 2 college programs around.
right.
Jackson State and Colorado.
Right. Point.
Point is the
You're
level of
talking about
competition.
Tyler Shuck. What did he do? Who did he turn around?
broke-
What did he do other than break? He didn't
He's
break records. He broke
6'5".
collarbones.
He's a 6'5" broken collarbone.
He's like Josh Allen,
But Shador also.
broken.
less popular.
He's like the
and broken.
Timu. He's like the Timu version of Josh Allen.
The Wish version.
No. I like that he turned programs around. I like that there's no stage he's going to be on that's going to be too big. He grew up
Okay.
in this atmosphere. He was tutored by guys like Tom Brady.
I don't love him
So-
at number 2.
So I don't either. But that's where I fight. Like, could he be a really good quarterback? Yes.
right.
But I'm not sure enough that he's going to be to want to take him too.
Like
and
this
watching
is the,
Travis Hunter, it's hard to pass that talent.
This is the typical Browns thing. You go and you draft the kid at number 2, and then 5 years from now, we're looking at those redraft scenarios. I just watched that one the other day where Josh Allen, that draft, they redid that draft, and they had us take Josh Allen number 1 and Saquon Barkley number 4. You know, and you go back and you look at that, and you're like, God almighty, you know, I don't want to be in another scenario like that where I draft Shador Sanders number 2 overall and everybody's saying, oh, I would have drafted him in the 32nd or 33rd or whatever pick. But
it's
at the same
it's a
time,
conundrum.
At the same time, the number 2 overall pick in that same draft, ready for this? Lamar Jackson. So Baltimore did not draft him there. You know, they drafted him, the 32nd pick in the draft, and they trade back up in the first round, or they take him in the first pick with the second round. one or the other. It was
I
right.
remember.
It was right there. It was, every team passed on him at least one time, and now he's one of the best. Arguably one of the top 3 in the whole NFL right now. So could Shador be that? I don't know. His dad would.
You look at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Right.
They have that chemistry. Is it worth trying to get Shador and Travis
that's
Hunter?
an interesting topic.
Is there anything that they can do to make that happen?
If he does let ball all the way down to the 33rd pick, and you drafted Travis Hunter with number 2, and you're sitting there at 33,
they've already got the chemistry. You don't have
that
to.
might
You
be
don't have to.
interesting. And, like we said, some of those running backs have been there.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't feel like there's a clear-cut path because we have so many needs. And I don't feel like there's clear-cut people because in positions of need, there's either not enough talent
Right.
or there's too much talent.
Right.
Wide receiver. It's a weak wide receiver draft. So we need a wide receiver.
So you've got
Travis
the number
Hunter-
2 overall pick.
Yeah.
Guess what? You need to take a wide receiver
Right.
there because there's
you need
not going to be one
quarterback.
for you
It's
later.
a weak quarterback draft. You need running back, but it's a great running back. draft.
It's a funny
Like,
week. Yeah, it's a funny week quarterback draft because it's like weak, but it's like Cam Ward, and then everybody else is almost the same exact quarterback or style or not style, skill level. So it's.
But virtually most
like you can get
most
the
every
same-
draft. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you can get like that second pick value because Ward's off the board at 1,
Right.
allegedly. All those other quarterbacks that fall into there, you can either get them in the first round or the 4th round, and they're probably going to all be in the same conversation, years to come. They're all about the same skill set.
That's my question. If Sanders didn't have Sanders' name on his back, would he even be in the conversation? Because you have guys like Kyle
I don't know
McCord.
what
and
name
Will
you put on
Howard.
his back. Hunter? Because then if we put Hunter on there, then yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you got guys that played for the Ohio State University, made the playoffs, played at a high level against high level ranked competition consistently, and are significantly lower on the ranks, at least as far as, what little big boards we have, we're privy to.
Right.
I'd be curious, and what I genuinely think is going to happen is I think you're going to see Sanders fall because
I think so
his
too.
big board. What's that?
I think so too.
Yeah, I think his big board grade is just not there. Yes, he threw 73 or 74% completions against Utah and Colorado State. And
who did Tyler Shuck throw against where he was 63% completion?
Okay.
But you're
Here's the
talking
argument.
4th
We're
and 5th
talking,
round.
We're talking
right?
somebody taking him as the second pick in the draft, or we're talking a 4th or 5th.
Well, I don't
round.
think anybody's
And-
talking taking number 2. I think everybody wants Hunter.
There's a lot of people that are still on the
Like, I wouldn't be
Sanders
shocked to
two-
see
Well,
some
I'm
of these
saying
guys.
us 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, Oakland was one of the ones that's been in talks with wanting to trade up to try to get Sanders. The Dallas Cowboys have said over and over and over again that they wanted to get Sanders.
And here's the problem. A few weeks ago, somebody offering me to drop back to 6 and give me a boatload of picks, I probably would have been on board. Right. But I'm on the Hunter train now.
You're welcome.
Especially, well, it's Flacco. Flacco did it.
Well, you're also welcome for that.
Yeah. Well, he can't be right too many more times, or this is going to be tough to do.
I got no button. Wait, here's one.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the one thing, so you look at what separates, you get guys like Brock Purdy and Tom Brady late rounds, and they turn out. You get guys like Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, and that you get them in the first round and they turn out.
Mm-hmm.
You get everybody in between that ends up a bust.
Yeah.
From the Ryan Leafs to the DTRs.
Yeah.
Early picks
Sam
to late
Darnold's
picks.
even. I mean, you could call him,
But
He was
based
first
on
round.
last year, I'm not yet ready to call him a bust.
but he is a bust
But-
because he didn't do it where he was supposed. He's been with
But-
4 teams now to do what he's doing.
True, but look at Baker. He went to 4 teams, and all of a
Right.
sudden now he's
But you
Pro
could also
Bowl.
call him a bust.
He's not a
at that
bust.
point.
No,
He's
but how?
now he's an aging veteran. Like it's not like he never reached the.
But at
potential
what
he
point
was
do you
going to
become a
be.
bust? If you're still in the NFL as a starting quarterback making Pro Bowls, how are you a bust?
Yeah.
because you couldn't do it in the situation you're in. You had to like literally be shut down.
That's called maturing.
No.
Sometimes that happens.
Listen, you got guys like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield who are, we
I
talked
commend
about
them.
this
I love
earlier.
it.
These guys are coming into their prime.
Right.
We talk about rushing. Tyler Shuck is coming into his prime because he's already, 4 years old?
He started growing his beard.
Yeah. So these
He
guys
entered his prime in college.
what
3
we've
years
done
ago.
is at Cleveland in particular, but the majority of teams in the NFL is they rush these young guys
Absolutely.
in, and
100%.
we
Some are ready, but most are not.
right. We may have the luxury with Joe Flacco. I don't think we're going to have him for too many years, but he seems like he might be ready to play for another couple years.
Mhm.
And Kenny Pickett, Kenny Pickett, he might be here for a couple years. So we've got the ability to mentor somebody, and we can get somebody in. Again, back to the whole Sanders thing. What would this kid have thrown percentage-wise in the Big Ten if he played in the SEC? Would he?
Well, hold
you're
on.
talking 74%.
I would say, the only thing I would say to that is at a school like Ohio State, what's his number one strength?
accuracy.
Boom. You're throwing to a Mecca Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith.
Right.
All you got to do is get it near him. So that's a little bit of different conversation.
But why didn't he go to Ohio State? He wasn't in the conversation at Ohio State.
No.
He wasn't
but
heavily
Cam Ward's going to be
recruited
the
by
number
Ohio
one
State.
pick in the draft, and he wasn't even recruited out of high school.
But here's what I'm saying. Here, Shadur Sanders went to Jackson State. Yes, his dad was coaching there, but he wasn't recruited top 5.
No, but you don't have to be. Neither was Baker Mayfield. He was number one pick in the draft, and he was a walk-on.
Baker bust Mayfield.
But he played at a big time school.
Not at first.
At the end of his career, where he won the
He was a
Heisman,
walk-on. He didn't play.
he walked on and started.
He walked on, then started. He didn't walk on and start. He didn't do both at the same time. There's a process there.
I'm just saying, you can't plug. I think you're fooling yourself. I think the fans in general are fooling themselves if they think they can plug a Shadur Sanders. I don't think he's worth the 33rd pick. I don't think he's worth the 2nd pick. I don't think he's, if he was there at 67.
Here's
Maybe.
where,
Maybe
and this is what I don't know, and this is the hard part when it comes to quarterbacks, is where I was going, is the Tom Brady's, the whatevers, the Jaden Daniels,
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy's, you get some great quarterbacks that are drafted late. You get some great quarterbacks that are drafted early. You get some great quarterbacks that are drafted somewhere in the middle, and you get busts all over.
Mm-hmm.
There's something intangible that separates them, because at some point they had the talent to be drafted where they were drafted, or didn't have the talent to be drafted where they were drafted. For me, that's the important part, is identifying the intangible. And that's what has me most curious about Shadur, is he's got the pedigree, he's got the upbringing, he's got the mental fortitude. Nothing seems to faze him. And he's got the know-how to understand the game, and he's been in locker rooms all his life. Nothing's too big. Does that mean he's going to be a great quarterback? No. But it has me intrigued because he's already got signs of that intangible that's going to take to be able to win on the next level. Tom Brady wasn't great coming in, but every time you see him, the guy knows he's the best.
Yeah.
He's got that intangible that a lot of quarterbacks don't.
Yeah.
And so that, it doesn't mean that I think Shadur is going to be a Hall of Famer, but it's got me more intrigued about him.
So where are you comfortable? Where are you comfortable?
I'd take him in the 2nd and beyond, or late 1st.
You'd move back into the 1st.
I would, for me.
If he falls past Pittsburgh, you take him. You move back in and take him.
Depending
Past
here,
Pittsburgh,
well,
he's going to be there at 33 if he falls
probably,
past
yeah, no, there's 100%. But I think I said before, I'm also not against seeing what it would take to move ahead of Pittsburgh if he's still available, because I just think there's something there that you have time and can see if it's going to turn into something.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough of the running backs and things that you can still get a very good one with that next pick.
All right. Do you see I'm just thinking media circus because we've seen it with a number of players here in Cleveland. I mean, Shedeur Sanders comes to Cleveland as the 18th pick, first round.
He could very well get too full of himself.
Well, is he going to be willing, and is his daddy going to be okay with him sitting behind Joe Flacco for a season? He's going to need, I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, this kid's not NFL ready. And I don't think he's going to be ready 8 weeks in. So what kind of media circus are we going to?
Well, and that's, you're 100% correct. I actually agree with you. But I would.
There's got to be a button for that.
Hold on. Let me look
find
down my,
that button. That'll work. Yeah.
I'll take it.
No. And that's what there's absolutely a downside to all that. Because he comes in with
hype.
Very big hype, very big name, very big expectations.
Yep.
And by all accounts, a very big personality
Sure.
that comes with, I don't want to say he's arrogant.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Right.
But a very big personality. But I would hope that conversations were had prior to set the level of expectation.
Yeah.
We want you. We're going to do everything we can to draft you. I think they already know that Hunter is going to go too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's not even going to the draft.
Yeah.
He would be going if he knew he was going number 2.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he knows. But if I sit and
Imagine
tell
showing
him,
up to the draft and having to go number 2.
We have
Well
the sound
played.
effect. for
Continue.
yeah, you got a fart sound effect.
I've got a.
So I think he knows he's not going number 2.
that?
How can I rephrase that? I think he knows he's not getting drafted by the
second
Browns
pick.
with the second pick.
There you go.
And so if they set the level of expectation, we absolutely want you. We see you as being a cornerstone of our franchise moving forward. We're going to do everything we can to draft you.
Yeah.
Knowing, now understand, we're bringing in Flacco. He's going to be the guy we want you to learn under, to start under. There's no timetable of when you'd ever be able to take the starting role.
Mm-hmm.
You set that level of expectation. Hopefully he comes in knowing that's the plan.
Yeah.
What happens is those guys come in and they're either not told that or they're lied to.
Yeah.
And then that's
We
when.
plan to draft you and start you day one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we all know you have to grow a beard in order to be a starter.
At least a good one.
Listen, that sounds perfectly logical. What I think happens, though, is I think the expectations are that he's going to want to compete.
Right.
100%.
Out of the gate.
And if he doesn't feel like
But-
he's able to compete or he's not getting a fair shake, I just think that sets us up for a whole nother round of
Well, that could
2.0.
could that also be the
Roble.
conversation?
Yeah.
We have Flacco, who has been here, understands the system. Kenny Pickett. We want you to come in and compete. We're going to play the best of the 3 because why wouldn't you?
well, sure.
If he comes into camp and he far outplays the other 2, then maybe he's ready right now.
Yeah.
But
That's why I think the more realistic situation, I think the Flacco signing indicates that we're taking a mid-round quarterback where there aren't going to be those expectations. But again, plans could change. This kid falls.
But that's where I'm also not convinced. I agree, but I'm not convinced we're taking a quarterback now if we can't get one of those top guys.
I think the draft will show you how in love with Kenny Pickett they really are.
Agreed.
If they don't draft a quarterback, then they obviously think that guy.
I mean, do you see Kenny Pickett? I mean,
I don't know what
nobody's come out and said Joe Flacco's the starting quarterback.
No. Well, Kenny has come out and said
Yeah, I
that
did see that.
he
too.
was promised
a
the
shot.
chance to compete. And he also said, hold on, I got to look up this quote. It actually was pretty good. I liked it. He said, I plan to start for the Browns. I'm not going there to hang out.
I did see that one.
So it's,
And was that after the Flacco signing?
Yeah.
that was yesterday. That was yesterday. So, there's a mindset
I mean,
there.
what's the what?
And again, he's the same age as Tyler Shuck.
And what's the bad scenario there? You got a guy that comes in here that was picked in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They gave up on him.
He's the next Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield.
Right, in the Matt Canada
Geno
offense
Smith.
that I don't know any quarterback really ever, did well in. He goes to Philadelphia. He goes to a Super Bowl with Philadelphia, and he comes over here to the Browns that they're saying last year they would have traded for him before he went to Philadelphia.
They tried
but they
to.
were like, we weren't going to.
They tried to.
Well, no, what's his face? Barry said that he wasn't going to trade
With
anything of value to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's right.
So, like, when you hear him talking like that, you're like, okay, so what's the worst scenario that comes out of here? A kid comes in here, really wants to play and prove something, sits under a guy like Joe Flacco, and maybe beats him out in camp. Well, if he beats him out in camp, and we all agree that Joe Flacco's the guy,
Yeah.
how is that a bad scenario?
And that's what I say about Shedeur.
And now it's a younger
If
guy.
he beats him out, then he earned it. But that's where, again,
We didn't
just
draft
my
Shedeur,
opinion,
though.
if we don't get one of the top QBs, however they have them rated early, I'm not sure we get a QB, and we roll with Pickett and Flacco and see if what we can get on the open market after that.
Yeah, there's going to be there's one of these quarterbacks that we've talked and
Now,
plenty
unless
ones
one
we
of them
didn't talk
drops the
about.
6th or 7th round.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're either going to draft him real late, or there's going to be a guy like we said. There's been drafts where I've seen Tyler Shook undrafted.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that Will Howard goes undrafted? Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility. That all these
nobody's
guys-
talking about Kyle McCord.
Right.
That's probably
Quinn
a guy you
Ewers
could
is the
get
other
late.
one that
Yeah.
is just kind of non-existent. He
Riley
gave us a
Leonard.
run.
I mean, the kid from Oregon. We briefly mentioned. I mean, there's a
Dylan
there
Gabriel.
there is a lengthy resume or a lengthy list of quarterbacks that have a
decent.
winning resume.
And to be honest with you, you go into camp with 4. I mean, that's
Yeah, I was gonna say somebody's getting drafted because we need the arm.
Yeah.
And it's a cheap arm. You get somebody in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th
See,
round.
I would say 6th or 7th. If you can grab one of those guys late,
Yeah.
and then you've got to spend, because we got so many holes.
Yeah.
We know we have a QB for next year. If we can't get one of the best early, then we got to start fixing some of the other holes,
Right.
and we pick up whoever's left late
Yeah.
and see. That's, again, I could be wrong, but that's the way I,
I mean,
see
you
it.
probably are. I mean, you've
I have been.
been known to happen once or twice. Those would be fun. So we look forward to hearing more from you. Check us out on the social media platforms. Chat with us. Comment on these posts that we put out here. So until next time, we will check you later.
Sayonara.
see you.
Thank you for joining us on 3 and Out. Be on the lookout for more episodes.